Evening. Let us call to order the Kingston School Committee meeting for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. Let the time note that it is 6:05, and also this meeting is being recorded by the local scene. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Okay. We will begin with roll call. Mrs. Cannon?
Here.
Mrs. Coleman?
Here.
Mrs. Arietta?
Here.
Timothy Lewis is here. Mr. Chicane is with his family this evening, so we excuse him at this time. I would open it up at this point to hear from any visitors, if we have any, both virtually or in person. No one willing to speak at this time. Let's turn to agenda item number 3. Approval of regular minutes for March 14th and April 2nd, 2024. Any questions, comments, concerns, or a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from March 14th, 2024 and April 2nd, 2024. Second.
All right. Motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? No. The ayes have it.
Tim, can we take something out of order?
Yes.
Could we take the Kingston Youth Soccer donation?
Microphone.
Yeah.
It's on. Sorry. Can we take the Kingston Youth Soccer donation because we do have someone here to speak to that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Megan. I'll second that motion from Megan. Everyone in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Patrick, I welcome you to the podium.
All right, thank you, everybody. My name is Patrick Cullinan. I am the current president of the Kingston Youth Soccer Association. For anyone unfamiliar, we're a volunteer-run organization, and we run all things soccer in the town. We utilize the fields at Kingston Intermediate School as well as fields in the Opachinski Sports Complex. A little bit about us. We have about 600 to 800 players each year. We run a fall and spring season, and we never turn a player away due to finances. We have a good relationship with Dr. Whipple. She reaches out if there's anyone who might benefit from some exercise through sports and may not be financially able to make it. We make those ends meet. We've done the same thing with the coordinator for the new members of our community who may not be able to afford as well. So just a little bit about us. Why I'm here tonight is we're proposing to build a soccer kick wall on the fields at Kingston Intermediate School. It'd actually be on what we call lower KIS field, the one closer to the school. We've met with the school. The school is in favor of this. So what is a soccer kick wall? It's basically a big wall made of wood. We'll probably paint it Silver Lake type colors. We're going to make it larger than a U14 size net, so think 12 by 20 feet, something like that. Depending on how it works out, we may put some netting at the top so anyone kicking towards the top isn't going to be chasing their balls. This will be at no cost to the town, no cost to the school, entirely funded by KYSA, entirely maintained by KYSA into the future. So what we're just asking for is permission to be able to build it on the space that is lower Kingston Field. It would be off the field space towards one of the edges. We're going to give the school final say in exactly where it is. It's going to be placed in an area that it's not going to make mowing any more difficult. It might actually cut out a little bit of mowing. And special shout out to Steve, who does all the mowing for us and makes it so those fields are playable for us. We appreciate the relationship we have with the school, and we hope to continue it in the future. Who will the wall be available to? Anyone who's allowed to be on the KIS fields who wants to engage in soccer activities with the wall. Gym classes can use it. Anyone who's allowed to be on that field, we're fine with them using that, and that's our plan. It's probably going to cost somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500. We're going to make it out of either marine plywood or MDO, which I didn't know what MDO was. It's medium density overlay plywood. It basically has a resin material in it that makes it waterproof. So that's our plan going forward. If we get approval, we'll probably endeavor to do it pretty early in the summer, obviously when school's out, so we're not impacting that at all. it'll be constructed through volunteers.
Okay. All right, thank you, Patrick. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to have you explaining all the good things that Kingston Youth Soccer is doing. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick relative to the donation or even the youth program that he is the president of?
I think it's.
And the wall's not contingent on the donation. We just want to make that clear.
All right, thank
Vote
you.
how you will.
I think it's a great idea. I'm just curious to, who uses it? Like, we've had the soccer program for a long time. Does this like, where does this kickball come from? Do they, a lot of like club
Ye-
teams use these type of?
You don't see a ton around, but using a kick wall is very good to develop as an individual player. And when you don't have someone to kick with, it's a way that someone on their own can go down and improve their skill. In soccer, first touch, receiving the ball and keeping it close to you is very important. And the better you get at that, the better off you are. So in my house, lots of times it's an outdoor wall or it's my couch that's being used. So this will ease some of that burden. And if this is successful, we may end up seeking permission to do the same thing down at the Opachinski Fields, and maybe it could be something that could sustain lacrosse balls as well. There are walls out there made of concrete that cost 30 grand. That's not what we're looking to do. We want to get something up, people to utilize it. I was at the Duxbury Fields recently. They have one over there. The more kids are touching the ball and having that ability to receive it and, you know, play it back, the better off they're going to be. When you kick once and it's into a net, then you got to go retrieve the ball or bring 15 balls with you. So it's much more productive. Even 10 minutes a day touching a ball is going to improve.
That's
Their
awesome.
skills, yeah.
No, my chimney will thank you when you
Yes.
get it up and going.
All right, thank you. Jean?
Pat, you answered my question about whether it could be utilized for the gym classes, so I think that that's great because it's inadvertently giving us an additional play structure for, not necessarily play structure, but something that Mr. Carparis and gym classes can use. So I think that that's great, and I also think that while the fields were built using CPC funds, I think they've done a great job maintaining them, and I don't think that there would be any harm in us allowing you guys to raise the structure. So I think it's great.
All right. So does any school committee member interested in making a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the kickball for KYSA.
A second?
All right, friendly amendment to that, and we also accept their monetary donation to the district.
Yes, just a little bit about that. We do have a great relationship with the schools. They go out of their way to help us. I know they have a ton going on, and they still make sure they get a weekly mow in for us so we can use those fields. They also help support us with the summer camp that we run, giving us a place to go to get out of the heat in case of emergencies. So we are donating an amount of $1,000 to the Kingston Intermediate School, and we've labeled it as for KIS purchases, so they can use it however suits their needs going forward.
Okay.
Is that an additional amendment?
So, no,
You're already referring to that?
yeah.
Okay.
Is there any stipulations on when, because it's earmarked, anything that has to be mentioned in the motion?
If, I would say that if you want the money to be used in a particular way, you would put that in the motion.
No, I'm comfortable with the school using it at its discretion. All right, so the motion was to approve the construction of the kick wall, and then there was a friendly amendment to also accept the $1,000 funds as a donation to Kingston Intermediate School. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you, Patrick, thank you.
Good time. Can I approach?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sarah will take.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I approach? I have an uncle who's a judge. All right.
He's a lawyer.
All right. All right, the next item under, I want to thank Megan for being mindful of Patrick's time and asking that to be taken out of order.
We didn't have it in the past.
We're going to move to item number 4, which is the KES principal contract and discussion and possible vote. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or concerns relative to that, or we can take a motion?
I just want to clarify that this is the discussions that we've had previously regarding this. Okay.
Yes.
So I will make a motion that we accept the KES principal contract as discussed.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All right, the ayes have it, thank you. Okay. All right, MOU regarding paraprofessionals, teacher transfers, possible vote. Do we want to refer to Dave on this or just?
Sure.
All right. Please.
So would you like me to just summarize what's the contents of the MOU?
Reader's Digest version. No, please,
Oh.
share with what you're most comfortable
So as
sharing.
a result of the separating of Silver Lake employees who are currently employed at Kingston Elementary School and Kingston Intermediate School, the district engaged in negotiations with the associations in Kingston. There is a settlement agreement that is currently on the table that is going to be voted for by the association on Thursday. And my understanding is that the committee has reviewed the document, and it would now be up to you whether you wish to formally approve it.
Great, thank you, Dave. Anyone from the committee like to speak to this?
I would just like to add that the MOU was agreed upon between the union membership leadership and the committee, but it does not necessarily include all that was discussed. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
And so if we were to make a motion, it would be that we would be approving the MOA pending the KTA bargaining and Silver Lake bargaining units approval as well.
So I will make that motion, that we accept the MOU pending their vote.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Noes? All right, the ayes have it, thank you. And I feel it's important at this time, I want to thank all members of Silver Lake, Kingston, Halifax, and Plimpton in their work in the restructuring of our district. It is very labor intensive, and there were things that were unexpected, expected, but we recognize how much work members of central office did to successfully make the restructuring happen. So thank you. All right.
Can complete the restructuring.
Yeah. Okay. Teachers Corner, I'm wondering, do we have anyone with us remotely?
There's 2 people there.
Do we recognize those? I don't recognize names of teachers. Okay. One of them is, okay. Mrs. Smith, if you can hear me and you're here for Teachers Corner, you're welcome to speak now. All right. Okay, number 7 is our PTO report. If anyone is here remotely to speak to that, or any members of the committee who also have insight into the PTO, please be welcome to share.
I do know that the fun run is coming up in the very near future. And what's that?
Fun runs KFP.
Oh, shoot, KFE, sorry. Okay. Withdrawn.
But regarding PTO, that's actually where Mike Chicane is at. He's enjoying the 5th grade boys night out, and
Okay.
the 5th grade girls night out was a great success, and hopefully the boys night out as well.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, let's hear from our administration. We'll start with Dr. Whipple, please. Wherever you're comfortable, Carrie.
I do have an addition for the PTO that they did do.
All right.
That doesn't matter.
All right, so we have a few updates. So during our April staff meeting, we introduced EduClimber to our staff. We're really excited about this platform because instead of having to access our data, our DIBELS and STAR through multiple platforms, it's all going into one platform. So the staff are psyched about it. We're looking forward to continue to train them and have them utilize that to provide interventions for our students. And that's part of our MTSS process that we've been working on all year as a district. So throughout the year, we continue to meet with our support team, and that's just to make sure that kids are getting what they need intervention-wise, academics, behavioral, social, emotional. So just some updated numbers, which we probably have had more since I wrote these notes last week, but we've had 46 initial ST meetings and 44 follow-up meetings. So that's just ensuring that the interventions we're putting in place are working, and if not, what we're doing to respond to that and support our students. We had a kindergarten show on April 10th. It was amazing. The kids were adorable. We didn't have that, I don't think, the past 2 years, so we were psyched to do that. Earth Day was awesome. The kids partnered with Neighborhood Trees, which they donated 50 trees to some of our classes across K through 2. They did a lot of writing about Earth Day and spreading awareness of plastic pollution and how they can be an Earth Day helper. We had our kindergarten information night on the 29th. So that's when parents come, we share a little bit about the school, give them a tour, so we had a great turnout for that. Our second grade students went on a new field trip, which PTO set up, which was awesome. So that was Holly Hill Farm, and that was in Cohasset. That was a newer trip, so we're excited to have something a little bit closer, so spend more time there, because transportation can really impact your time on the actual physical field trip. But they learned about greenhouses, composting seeds, planting. Students were able to test temperatures of compost, feed chickens, say hi to some animals, observe water snakes. Not for me, but they even tried some kale too. Kindergarten is heading to Buttonwood, so they previously went to another zoo, Capron Zoo, or Capron, I forget how it's
Capron.
Capron, I usually say it the wrong way. So Buttonwood Zoo is awesome too, so it's a little bit bigger, so the kids are psyched. They go tomorrow and Thursday. And there's just more diversity in animals at Buttonwood. They like the elephants. First grade is off to Franklin Park Zoo, and again, this is all through PTO. They help organize all of this. Holly Dillon is amazing. It's a lot of emailing back and forth. And then first grade is gonna have their science fair and zoology fair on the 31st. There's been a lot of upcoming dates. We're trying to communicate as much as we can, because we know it's busy when you're a parent trying to remember all these things, but something else the PTO just set up for us, still waiting on some more details, is having Laura Duxta visit. And she's an author with alopecia. So it's just trying to create more inclusive environment and share differences with kids. So we're excited about that. She wrote some books you probably know, I Love You More, No Matter What I Love You, You're a Gift to the World, and I'll Hug You More. Boosterthon begins May 31st. So it's the World Changer Workshop. So pretty cool theme that we have this year going on, and it talks about problem solving through different steps. We are working on fairness this month for our value of the month. And then I think it's okay to do my school improvement plan and that information?
Yes,
That's fine?
thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So April, 27th, I sent out a school survey, sent out a few reminders. When I looked back, it was good, because last year we had 127 responses, which I would like a lot more, because we have obviously a lot more families, but we did get 174 responses this year, which was awesome. I presented, it's in the drive. However, I may need to represent it again in September, because my last school council meeting is on May 30th. So we haven't gone through the data yet. So our next step, we've met 5 times, we'll meet again May 30th. Our step is I highlight all the themes, we go through it, and then we make edits to the school improvement plan based on their work together as a committee. Right now the goals are safety and operations, community outreach, and inclusion and equity. So I'm looking forward to meeting with them and going over the data a little bit more in detail, and to try to figure out how we can continue to improve KES. I think that's all I have for school improvement plan. Do you want me to go over any details of I know you guys have the document that you probably read, so I didn't know if you had questions about the goals or any areas of that.
I did read your improvement plan.
But we can defer that till it's
Yeah,
completed.
so, there's a possible vote about this, but
Oh, yeah.
I think it might be, if the rest of the committee agrees, it might be appropriate that we hold that vote until September, until
Okay,
it's
I think that would, yeah,
reevaluated
Yeah.
and represented.
because it's not really done, because we haven't gone over the data yet.
Yeah,
So,
which
okay.
is understandable.
Okay. I think that's it. It's a busy time of year. It's fun. So we're just trying to get kids to still be focused and finish out the year strong. And I don't know the data presentation, if we do that, is that after? Does he do his first, and then we'll go back to that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I know that we were going to table the vote on the school improvement plan, but I guess this year's just looks different from, obviously, what we've seen over the past several years, and I know that we're going more towards diversity and inclusion, DEI curriculums and stuff, but is this something that, like, when you're meeting for your council meetings, you're presenting, and then the community members and the parent representatives are giving their input, and then it's a collaborative effort, or is this mostly a framework that's being kind of implemented from DESE, that these goals are kind of moving, because, I mean, academics isn't even really on here this year, is I guess more of my concern,
Yep.
if you would. And I understand moving towards the inclusion model is just more, where, is it coming as a directive, or is it coming as something that our community members and the representatives that sit with you on the council are asking for?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So just to give you a little, so you can kind of see the structure. So we meet every single month.
Yep.
We look at feedback from the school community, and then we use that to kind of inform our instruction. It's a collaborative approach where if I get some feedback, I share it and I say, hey, how can we better improve this? So one simple thing is like curriculum night is something that like I wanted to kind of improve those processes because parents weren't going to see the specialists because like one person's in the gym, one's in a library. So then we said, hey, let's make like a hallway tour. Let's invite Kingston Library, other community people like the rec department, things like that. So that's just like one example. As far as these goals have been similar since I've been there, and we have fine-tuned them. As far as curriculum, I think for me, that's every single day. I consider myself an instructional leader, so that's something I focus on every day. So it doesn't look like that's physically in here. To me, I see these goals as like something on my to-do list I haven't done yet, and I need to cross that off, where curriculum is every single day, all day long. I think some preliminary information is being able to challenge students. That's something we're always working to do. I think there's a big spectrum of students where we have struggling learners and we have students that already maybe meet the standards. So again, that's something that's not in here, but that's something that's on my mind and something we work on daily at KES. But that's not to say we couldn't add it in here, because inclusion doesn't just mean diversity and equity. Inclusion, we had co-teaching on here,
Yeah.
but I feel like we're there and we need to improve that, but that impacts my budget. I can't have common planning without budget implications, like with full-time specialists. So like, I didn't consider keeping that on there at that moment because we're co-teaching. But that's not, just because it's not here doesn't mean we're not doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So I think based on when we meet, some of those concerns came up about challenging students. And that's like a theme that I've already pulled out of the data and that we'll meet. So that may wind up being in here as well. That's just one piece I remember about curriculum.
And then can you just remind me, is it every 3 years that we
Adjust us.
review the?
We adjust it every year. So based on, we send the survey out every single year. We're supposed to look at the timeline, what have we completed. So some things that are on here, I took them off because like we do that every day now. Like first couple years, that was new. It doesn't need to be on there. So every year, this time of year, we adjust it. I should have sent the survey out a little earlier probably, so I could have been prepared for the edits now. The problem is the placement survey too. So trying to like spread out feedback from families, because it is really hard to get placement. I probably get over 300 people responding. This, I had to remind to get 174, so.
So this is
Yeah.
a tech question, and you
Yeah.
may defer me to someone else, but I went in to fill out the survey,
Yeah.
and I was unable to do it. But my wife had said that she had done it.
So maybe it's only one per
So
family,
that's the
maybe.
question. So it's
Yeah.
one household.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, because I've had other people reach out and I said, well, you can give me your responses, here are the questions, and just email it to me.
Got it.
So then I was able to get two, but something to look at, actually.
all right.
I was gonna say then the 174 may have been,
174 families.
right.
Yeah.
Right, which is
Yeah.
more students.
Yep.
Like I did get some outside of that because the other parent in the family emailed me, wanted to provide more feedback too, so.
Okay.
All right.
But that's a good question. See if we can fix that.
I think that's a pretty high participation rate for something like this that's seen as like an extra to do.
I feel like that's like one,
It's a third.
that's a whole grade.
It's about a third,
Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so I would like to see more personally, but, yeah.
Yep. All right. All right, thank you, Kerry. Before we move on to KIS, there is a question about the flyer distribution
Oh, yeah.
for the Warrior Football. It is for-profit, but we have approved other for-profit camps. So it is the 2024 training camp that'll be held through the Warrior Youth Football Program here, and the dates are listed in the flyer. So do we want to consider distributing this?
I think we've distributed for
Yeah.
them in the past.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And I'll just add, actually, because my kids participate in Silver Lake Youth Football, this is an optional clinic, and it's actually open to athletes that do not register for football, if I recall correctly. Like, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think his son does it for training, for football, or for soccer. Like, he participated as, for the training. So, it's a great little clinic that they run, and it's run by all the coaches, so I would support this. And the profit goes right into the program for their nonprofit status still, even though it's for-profit.
Great, thank you. So let's make, I'll make a motion that we approve the distribution of the Warriors football training camp to be sent via backpack mail by both KIS and KES.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All right. Thank you, Kerry. Andy?
Good evening. Andy Materna, principal at KIS. I'd like to start off by thanking the PTO for their staff appreciation last week. What a great week. It was fantastic. The staff loved it. Any kind of activity like that in our building really gets morals up and high and kind of rounding out the year. Also like to thank them for their efforts with the 5th grade boys night out and the 5th grade girls night out. Again, just keeping the community moving and keeping everybody engaged in the school. So thank you, PTO. I'd like to thank KFE for the purchase of the touch screens, the touch view screens, which are now have been deployed into classrooms, and staff are engaging with these as interactive touch screens for their lessons. I'd also like to thank KFE for purchasing of some video equipment, which I hope to utilize for the fun run and things that are happening at the end of the year. We've been using our tech teacher's camera for things like that, and now we have our own camera, and hopefully it'll lead to additional lip dubs and things happening next year. So thank you everybody for all of your support at KIS. Some events that have been happening. I had the Safe Routes to School from Mass Department of Transportation at KIS today, checking out the arrival and departure ways, and thanks to Carrie getting these people involved to help us kind of figure out the conundrum that is traffic at KIS and KES. So anybody that's listening, we're hearing your concerns. This is kind of out of my professional, ability to make decisions. I've done what I could. So we're kind of getting Department of Transportation involved to help us out with the traffic patterns. MCAS later this month. 3rd grade worked on MCAS today. We'll be finishing up MCAS later this month with 5th grade STE. Later this month, we have Safe Routes to School back for a bike safety program for all grades. They're going to be back for 2 days to talk about bike safety. We do have a lot of kids that ride their bikes to school, which is awesome. They're out playing wall ball in the morning, and I engage with those kids when I get to work, and it's a really good way to start up the day. It's fun. Our Fun Run kickoff is later in May, the 29th, and June 7th is the Fun Run event. Looking forward to that, again with KFE. And we have our graduating senior walkthrough on May 29th. So any seniors that have gone to KIS will come back to KIS, walk through the halls, see their old pictures and their yearbook pictures that we have stashed away in the archives. I'm looking forward to that event. We also have our Future Laker Day coming up on May 30th with Halifax and Dennett at Halifax, where KIS travels, all the 6th grade students for Future Laker Day as they come together as Lakers as they transition into 7th grade. We have tomorrow night, KIS, at KIS, we have a band, chorus, and art festival. This features the band and chorus from Dennett and Halifax as well. So this is all of our band, all of the chorus from the Tri-Town area at KIS tomorrow night, 5 to 7. June 10th, we're going to have a Spirit Week sponsored by our PBIS programming, get the spirits going, get some kids rounding out the year for that final week of the school year. We have our Grade 2 Step-Up Day June 12th is slated for our final assembly for 6th graders. And we also have award assemblies, which were a big hit earlier in the year, awarding students for academics as well as being part of the KIS community. 5th grade just finished up with their owl pellet dissection and found some very interesting evidence of food chains. Not my cup of tea, similar to Carrie's, like bird skulls and animal bones and seeds. Very interesting. A lot of kids were really engaged with that. So hats off to the 5th grade teachers for getting that going. Finally, my school improvement plan, our school survey will be completed with the support of school council later this month and processed through the summer to inform our school improvement plan to be presented in September.
All right, thank you, Mr. Materna.
Thank you.
Jean?
Sorry to put you on the spot. Tomorrow night's just band for KIS, right? And then chorus 6-4, just to not have my head explode, I think.
I think it's everything.
Where is it at?
Oh, we have a,
Tomorrow night's band from multiple schools. The 6-4 is band and chorus from this KIS.
all right, for those
Okay.
who did not get that.
Otherwise, my daughter might be choosing
All
between
right,
songs.
tomorrow is all city or all district band concert, and then June 4th is KIS.
KIS chorus
Both.
band and art show.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
triple threat, I like it.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right, great stuff. So, thank you, Mr. Materna. So this will be actually the last time we're going to meet in this formal capacity before we break for the summer. We, as a committee, will meet again in July, but the academic year will be complete. So, I've made no secret how highly I think of Carrie as a principal, and I would like to share with you as you approach the completion of your first year, the unsolicited feedback that I've received, and I'm sure many of the members of the committee have received about your principalship from a diverse group of stakeholders. So as we welcomed you in September, you've clearly immersed yourself into this community, and the kids and families are better for it. So I want to thank you and encourage you to keep up the good work.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that
Okay.
feedback.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Jean?
Just before we let the principals off, do we have the current incoming kindergarten numbers?
I don't.
It's okay.
I mean, like, it wouldn't be accurate. We're still
Right.
trying to
It'll be
understand
off
the
by
new
like 30,
system.
40.
It's a little more complicated than, there's like a packet, but there's multiple pages per packet. So I want to say the last time we were at 137 maybe?
That's good.
Yeah, so that's appropriate.
And you
Yeah.
figure we're about 50 short, so that sounds about right. 40, yeah.
I'm not overly worried.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
Glad we retained that staff.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. We are going to go to the Director of Finance and Operations.
Actually, could I ask that the principals be allowed to share some of their data with you?
Oh, sure.
So over the past year, over the past 2 years, we've been working with Research for Better Teaching. We've been getting into classrooms. We've been identifying research-based practices, focusing on what we would expect to see and hear in classrooms that are using effective strategies, and working with our principals to look at data, analyze data, and then think about what interventions might best serve the students, whether it be individually, as whole class, small group, or really targeted interventions as part of both the multi-tiered system of support, but also just in terms of our capacity as instructional leaders. So for tonight, Carrie and Andy have an overview of the data that they've collected this year and their analysis of that data in terms of how that will inform their goals moving forward into next year.
Great, thank you. Are we
Are we able to
going to
present
present?
Yes, is that possible?
All right, thank you. So as we're pulling that up, you would kind of introduce the data, and you can jump right in when you're
Yeah.
ready.
Okay, so for our student learning goal this year, for my principal student learning goal, it was about using effective teaching strategies, using data to inform instruction, providing tiered system of support, designing aligned high-quality learning experiences, and we'll have at least 80% of students meeting or exceeding. So the goal is to have 80% of our students by the end of the school year meeting or exceeding. And that's connected to our strategy for district improvement. Our KS instructional focus was using data and student responses to differentiate instruction and support, provide options for student engagement, communication, and self-expression. Over the past 2 years, like Dr. Pruse said, we have creating goals that are all focused on student growth and outcomes and achievement. We have grade level data meetings 3 times a year. So after we do the benchmark assessments, which that schedule is a little different this year and it'll be a little different next year as well, we host a community meeting with the whole grade level, and we take all the teachers, we meet, we analyze the data, we talk about trends, we look at, you know, what's going well, and we compare it to last year and what changes have we implemented that have impacted those student outcomes. I meet regularly with co-teachers and individual teachers, so as they get their data, whether it's good or there's some challenges in there, we talk about it and how we can support them. Our grade level meetings and staff meetings this year have been very focused on instruction, looking at the interventions, ensuring that they're working and sharing as well, because you know you could be right next to each other in a classroom and be doing 2 different things, and both could be working well, but just need to share those with each other. This year we did monthly meetings, Jake and I, with our reading teachers, so we want to make sure our kids are getting in and out. So if they're getting the interventions, they should be getting in, learning, and getting out, and not be, an intervention should be 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks, not all year. So that's been a huge focus. And then meeting also monthly with the special ed teachers to analyze those data and groupings. Our response team, which is myself, the AP, school psychologist, adjustment counselor, and behaviorist, we meet once a week to look at our behavioral data. So as that data comes in with walkie calls or interventions we're putting in place, or teachers, you know, saying, hey, I'm struggling with a student, we collect all that behavioral data every single day throughout the day. We meet once a week on it, see trends. If a student's having a difficult time 3 times on a Monday, why? What are we doing? What else can we be changing? So we're not waiting a term, a year, we're intervening right then in the moment, coming up with a plan, and we invite the gen ed teachers to those as needed. To me, those are the most important meetings, because we need to make sure our students are all accessing the curriculum, and if they're having trouble focusing, then they're not accessing the curriculum necessarily. Something that was really new this year is implementing, I'm on slide if you want to keep going. Phonics, so every teacher, right there's good, thank you. Across all grade levels, consistently implementing phonics, and you'll see in the data that's been pretty tremendous growth when it comes to DIBELS, so we're excited about that. My teachers, I have to say, are psyched. They can't wait for the data meetings because they're working so hard, they're doing all these interventions, and they cannot wait to see the benefits of all the hard work they're doing, and I've heard that across all grade levels. We implemented the mystery science curriculum this year. Teachers are loving that. It's hands-on. The kids are enjoying it. I particularly love science, so I love that the kids are enjoying it, it's hands-on, and it's connected to literacy as well. Our collaborative classroom texts are also connected to science and social studies, so it's nice to have that support. If you want to go to the next slide. So I think what's important to look at here, you can see if you look at that 3rd column, that's the % of students that are at core or above, average to above average. And in the beginning of the year, you can see, I can barely see that, 57% were at or above. And in the spring, we're at 74%. And when I say spring, I mean March. So that's March. If we look at where we were last January, so last January we had 49% at or above. We've implemented phonics consistently across all grade levels in kindergarten, and we're at 74 already. So to me, that's huge. That's a huge gain. So that's 17% between October and April, because kindergarten benchmarks were actually not in September, they were in October and December. So January, not a huge difference in time there. Were there any questions about that data before I move to so as of March, 74% of kids are at or above, so we'll redo it again at the end of May. I have no doubt we'll be at 80%.
Sorry, Carrie,
Yeah.
everybody's above 74%. Starting the year, it was 13%, is that what, I'm just looking
Sorry,
at your
where?
chart.
So-
It says current kindergarten, DIBELS, K, spring.
Yeah, so in the beginning of the year, in October, 57 kids were at or above.
Okay, thank you.
Grade level standards.
Sorry, grade level standards, yeah.
Okay,
And the goals, the idea is that would be
80.
80.
That was the goal I set.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
74% is great. Do you know why the winter one was 49%? It looks like less kids receiving intervention at that point.
It just could be how the data is sorted at that
Okay.
time, because it was only from October till December. So sometimes the the expectation is different depending on the time and place, the timing of the assessment. And we changed the calendar this year, and we're changing it again next year a little bit, just based on some feedback from this year.
So these include all students in
Yeah.
kindergarten?
Yeah, so that was 159 students, like, if you look at spring, 159 kids.
And it doesn't break out like they're on IEPs, they're
Nope.
just all
Nope.
general
Those-
student
yeah.
population?
They all we need to get to 80 regardless, in my mind, so. So that's great. And then if we go to first grade, which is the next one, I always like to look at where we were end of year kindergarten, because to me, there's that summer slide, and those kids have those skills in May or June, so we should be expecting, they might need a little push, but they should be able to be there right in September. But if you look, we were at 58%, so you can see a little bit of that slide. But we got up to 76% in March, which is even higher than the kindergarten there, and more students as well. So you can see last January 2023, we're at 67%, and in March, we're at 76%. So again, I have no doubt we'll hit that 80% with first grade for Dibbles. Questions about first grade? No? Okay. When we look at second grade, we had, again, you see the end of the year, we were at 78% last year at the end of the year. Beginning, we came in at 63%, and we're at 71%. Not a huge difference from January 2023 to March, but I mean, we're at 70% last spring, so again, I expect to be at 80+% in the next benchmark assessment. I think that one of the most important things I look at too is growth, so it's not just about the scores necessarily, because kids start at all different places, but the expected growth, median growth should be 50. So I expect every single kid to be at least 50, because that's the expectation. So if you look at the next slide, this has our median growth. So for STAR assessment, we're looking at for math, the expectation is the growth score is at least 50. We're at 61 for math, and ELA is 67. So even if you'll see my scores aren't as good for STAR, but I'm glad to see the growth is at least there, and
You have
we're
the
working
same,
on it.
sorry,
What's
you
that?
have the same expectation as the 80% in this
I
one
did,
as well?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we go now to the next slide, this is STAR reading. So this is just for second grade. This is a test they take on the computer for the first time. They do early literacy. It's a little different. Next year, we are going to have the kids in first grade take math as well. So I think that'll be good practice. So when we look at the STAR here, again, my goal was 80%. In the fall, we were at 50% of kids meeting or exceeding. And March, we were at 60%. So we have some work to do, but that's when I'm meeting with the data meetings and teachers, they're like, oh, no, I know where I need to go now. Having that March date, I think, is crucial, because you're like, I still have time, I can still reach these goals. And if you look at the average scores in the yellow column, because you might say like, oh, well, we were at 64% in the winter and 60%. But if you look at our average scores, the average score did increase. Do you see how we had 922 and now 939? So sometimes it's just the timing and the expectations of the assessment at that time. The goal is to be at 951 though, so we're not far from that. So the goal in red there says 951, we're at 939 for the average score. If we go down to the next one, this is second grade math STAR assessment. These scores are a little bit lower than the reading, as you can see. So we're at 48%. But again, if you look at that yellow column, because when I saw those numbers, I wasn't that happy after looking at the Dibble. So I said, okay, let me dig a little deeper. Like, our average score is increasing. Our growth score is good. Growth scores are good. Average scores are increasing. But we need to continue to provide interventions to make sure we're getting much closer to that 80%. Now, June of 2023 was 48%. So we are ahead of where we were last year. So March of this year was 48%. In June last year, we were at 48%. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we are still in a better place than we were last year,
Right.
but we still
So
have
the
work to do.
current second grade, when they were closing out grade one, they were at X%, and now.
Well, they don't take this in first grade, so it's
Okay.
not the same cohort of kids.
Okay.
But to me,
Got
it's
it.
the same instructional practices.
Follow.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a question,
Yeah.
sorry.
Is that good?
So when, you said to make sure interventions were in place, so are you looking at a certain, like, partially meeting expectations, those that population and looking to see where things could be added to.
Yeah, we want the kids in the red and the orange definitely moving up, but I would argue that the green and blue kids also need to grow. We don't want them staying stagnant either. Like, to me,
Thank you.
they all need to be moving forward. It's sometimes a little bit easier on these assessments to move the kids that have a lower score than it is the higher kids, but they all need to grow. So you want to make sure the growth scores are increasing too. So yeah, so that was STAR Math. So if we go to the next one, this is early literacy. So this assessment's a little different. It's not the same as first grade. I'm sorry, not the same as second grade. So you can look at, in the spring, we're at 66% right now. And we have till June to get to 80%. So I think we'll get there. And again, if you look at the average scores, our average scores are going up. So we were at 766 in September. In March, we're at 856. Now, June of last year, we were at 71%. In March this year, we're at 66%. So again, we're not far off there. You can move to the next one. Thank you. So just some trends, which I kind of already mentioned, but significant growth in dibbles, and I believe that's a result of consistent phonics instruction and language being used, which you'll see an increase in that as they move forward, because this is the first year we're doing it. So next year it'll be even better for first grade, even better for second grade. We have seen increased scores in the average scores. Again, the percentages aren't where I'd like them to be, but I have no doubt that we will get there. And same with the early literacy. The average score continues to grow. So when we look at, we want to respond to this data, what are the next steps? Like, we need to continue to analyze and provide the interventions on a regular basis. This past year, the elementary schools all worked on creating common writing assessments, which obviously impacts kids' ability to comprehend and read and write. So we'll be implementing those next year, which will be great. Our second grade staff analyzed third grade MCAS scores to see those are your kids last year, like how can we reflect and improve practices. EduClimber, as I mentioned, is going to be awesome for them in being able to put interventions in place and track them consistently, aligning the math and science standards. We really want to create common math assessments this year across all the grade levels, and as I mentioned, we're going to include STAR Math for grade 1. So that will be good. Sorry, I think I talked fast.
No, it's good.
Any questions?
No, good. We're seeing the growth trajectory. We're seeing a focus on centrality of the classroom, Tier 1 instruction. From my perspective, it's good. And I love the fact that your teachers love data. I thought I was the only one. All right, this is good. This is a good thing.
It's been huge. I think we spent a lot of time on it, and I'm really proud of the work they're doing. They're working really hard, and it's not easy trying to do all that and manage everything else in the classroom. So they're doing great.
Great. Thank you. Andy?
Okay, at KIS, our student goal was to have students a high-quality learning experience. 70% of all KIS students achieving meeting or exceeding expectations in MCAS subject by the fall of '24. We utilize in the data that I'll be sharing. The data is our STAR testing scores, and STAR is a good indicator of where we are going, what we're achieving, and so it's a good indicator along the way of the growth that our students are experiencing. But it also helps us kind of look at the information of what we need to do. As with any data set, there are always areas to celebrate, there are always areas to improve upon. So we do utilize this data with the staff. We had our PLC, our grade level meetings, where we looked at really closely individually students like Carrie down in those lower levels, identified individuals in classes, had grade level conversations between staff as to what staff can do, what they can put in place to assist those students in improving their scores moving forward. We're also looking at the processes that we have in place and the mechanisms that we have in place to support our students, like our support team and interventions that we can utilize to help bolster up the education of our students. With that said, if we look at our STAR Math, our 3rd through 6th grade, here are the spring, the end of May, and then the spring mid-March, which is a very distinct delineation that there is about a month and a half time frame between the times when these tests are given. So even though if you look at, for example, third grade in May of 23, they were at scores were the average of 992 with 52% of students at grade level meeting or exceeding expectations. If you look at the mid-March, although the score is 981, again, that time frame is different. It's an indicator that we're in the ballpark, but if you look at the percentage of the grade level, we're at 59%. So more students are now achieving this meeting or exceeding criteria. Similarly, going down with the fourth grade, the fifth grade, and the sixth grade, with the average scores, again, with that distinct delineation, that end of May in 23 to mid-March of 24, the time frames are different. You'll see the average scores and then the percentages of students. There is a comparison column at the end here which shows that we're trying to compare apples and oranges here with the time frames. That's just to show the comparison between these numbers that are in front of you, but also keep in mind kind of that asterisk of the time frame, that this is an indicator that students are improving with the spring 23 to spring 24 with our STAR testing. As we look through, we'll see the growth here. Grade 3 through grade 6, our median growth. For the median, we want our expectation to be 50. So our median growth is exceeding in grades 3, 4, and 5. The number of students who are meeting 50% or 50, the student growth percentage, the percentages are on the end. So 53% in third grade, 52% in fourth grade, 58% in fifth grade, and then 41% in sixth grade. So the information we're using, what are we doing moving forward? How do we improve on best practices? How can I facilitate, as the instructional leader, facilitate conversations with my staff to improve, to work together as our KS community to improve these scores? As we move into the next slide, we're looking at STAR reading. Similarly, I'd like to express the end of May and the mid-March delineation with that time frame of our testing. It shows the same information, only in regards to the STAR reading testing. Shows the average scoring of our students and the percentages at grade level of the students. The comparison at the end as well, the +4, +2, the static. Again, even though it's static, it is kind of apples and oranges with the time frame. The indicator would say that we are improving because we're a month and a half earlier in receiving the same grade, the same scores. Continuing on our growth.
Just, Andy, can I just
Yep.
ask one question? So the STAR reading and I guess the STAR math, is there two time frames when you test the kids? Like, is it end of May and mid-March, or is there like a fall time that you're testing?
We are testing students. I believe that we had 3 benchmark tests this year. Our benchmark windows, so we had September, December, and then March, so we had 3 benchmark testing areas for this year. We're comparing. We do use the benchmarks throughout the year to look at how do we change our practices, how do we support students that might be on those lower echelons of scoring.
But last year, just because you weren't here, they were different. So
Okay.
we did September, January, and like field day.
Oh,
Like
alright.
late, like that, in my head, that's where it was. So like, we adjusted that. So
Field
now
day,
it's,
okay.
now it's September, January, and then, sorry, September, December, and March. So that's why it's not perfect data from last year.
But
And
it
then we're-
could be, but this, I was just kind of trying to look at it and saying, the third grade average, though, be from September to mid-March could be bigger growth. This is looking at last year possibly.
I feel, looking at data and understanding of my numbers, that it's so close, and then
Okay.
you have another 5 weeks, that it would show that there is that potential for growth. Yes, in those 5 weeks where it's so close for the third grade average, that in 5 weeks of additional academics, that growth would become more.
And it happens, because I remember feeling worried last winter where there was similar scores to the fall, then all of a sudden we hit our goal of over 70% by June, even though it was field day, yeah.
Even though it's
Thank you.
Sure. So the growth slide here, again, some things to celebrate and some areas where we're looking at improving by utilizing this data. If we move on to the next, our trends and next steps. So with this information, this data sets that I just shared with you, STAR Math percentage increases in grade 3 and in grade 6. Our median growth scores in math in grades 3, 4, and 5, areas to celebrate. Our STAR reading percentages increases in grades 3, 4, and 6 again, and then a median growth scores in reading in grades 3, 5, and 6. Those are the trends from that information just shared. Our next steps, utilizing our database, which Carrie was talking about earlier, EduClimber, having all the information in one spot to examine and to figure out how do we make improvements. Identify best practices to support student growth and achievement. And these best practices, I don't have answers to what the best practices are right now, but what is staff doing that is effective? What are they doing that's not effective? Let's get rid of the inefficiencies and improve on the efficiencies. Our grade level collaboration to support inclusion, having time set aside during our grade level meeting times for staff to collaborate and work together to be cohesive units for supporting our students. And then finally, implementing the writing common assessments and calibration of grading, like Carrie said as well. We worked on that as a district to have all of our schools come together to work on these common gradings and common assessments, as well as common rubrics.
Great, thank you. Any of the members have any comments, questions, or concerns for Mr. Materna? This is good stuff. Our kids are making progress. That's what we want to see, so thank you. All right. Now it's appropriate to turn over to Ms. Hickey. All right, Ms. Hickey.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start off by talking about the shelter reimbursement. We received a letter that we're going to receive a second payment from the Emergency Assistance Shelter Reimbursement Program for fiscal year 2024. These payments are for eligible students reported by the district to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, covering December 15th, 2023 to March 1, 2024. These payments also include adjustments for students who weren't captured in the previous data download to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Kingston will receive $248,170 for 39 students, with a combined total of 2,366 days in membership. I have uploaded the email from Department of Elementary and Secondary Education into the school committee folder in case you would like to read those numbers again for the fun of it at a different time.
Well, thank you for that. This is in addition to the 101,000 we received earlier in the year.
117. And this is payment through March 1st, so there will still be an April, May, June payment.
Great, thank you.
May I ask a question about that?
Please.
So I understand that we just, through our budget discussion and cuts, we had eliminated the ELL positions because they're going to be funded by at least the first portion of this grant. These funds are specifically allocated, or they need to be allocated towards expenses, approved expenses. There's like a very limited number of things that we can use these funds for, or once they're back in the general fund, they can be used for anything, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Let me pull up the letter, and because it says specifically.
Yep.
In accordance with language in the supplemental budget H3458, line items 1599 to 0924, the funds must be deposited into a separate account like a state grant and made available to the school committee without further appropriation. The funds can be used to support instructional services and any other services that the district is providing to these students and their families.
Yes, and
So-
that was my question, which is why I'm asking, I guess. So because we've already earmarked those funds that were received from the first payment, do we need to do anything special with this $248,000, which I'm assuming is going to continue to pay for that ELL position, those 2 ELL positions moving forward? Or is there something else that our principals need funding for that can be covered by this grant? I guess is my question. Because this is kind of a bonus right now to our budget, right?
It is, but a bonus with limitations.
Yeah. Right,
So
that's-
if you think about what we didn't eliminate those
Yep.
ELL teachers, we transferred the source of the funding for them. And so I would imagine that we may come across other things where we can transfer the source of funding.
Mhm. And the letter states that it can be carried beyond the current fiscal year. So
It's huge.
that's important to recognize, so.
Ms. Hickey, I guess looking at this 248, which is a surprise, it's a very pleasant surprise, well received. Are we comfortable saying that the state is now funding the cost of education for the students that are residing in the shelter? And the reason I ask that is because I know it's a very controversial topic right now in our community, especially with the complexity of the budget season, but people are asking where the funding is coming from for, temporary housed children. So I guess I mean, I'm looking at this and I don't think it costs that much money to have, not knowing all of the individual student needs. That to me tells me that the state is now funding these children's education.
I would agree that they're making a significant contribution. I would have to do an analysis. I will tell you one of the things that Kingston is very fortunate of is that there is a bus stop essentially at the shelter. So we're not paying additional transportation for, costs.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will
But
make a motion. I
Yeah,
was gonna-
it states, $104.89 per day per student. And as you said earlier, that this is a pleasant surprise, so.
And it's the second one, and you said there's going to be another one through, which sounds like,
Yeah.
at this point now, it's a funding source from the state, so.
Right, so I like to look at the email. The first email said, the department is processing your first payment, and you don't get to say first payment to a business manager without implying there will be a future payment. And this one says the department is processing the second payment, not the final payment, not the last payment, or, so if I.
With a specific number of days.
Right, so
right.
I'm gonna, they give a time frame, and so I'm going to function going forward with that there will be a third payment.
Okay.
All
I
right,
will make the motion that Kingston accept the $248,170 from the state.
Second?
all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All right, the ayes have it, thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with my financial report, there is a document in your folder. If you go through, you'll see that there's a deficit in the school committee line. That's largely due to us being over our retainer with Stoneman Chandler Miller. The FY25 budget takes this into consideration. There is a deficit in utilities, which the FY25 budget also takes into consideration. There's a deficit in maintenance of equipment as well as shared cost technology. I'll be meeting with the Director of Maintenance and the Director of Technology to review these lines, make sure things were charged in the correct place. There's a deficit in special education, transportation, contracted services, and tuitions. We will be allocating all remaining FY24 circuit breaker funds to offset this. Dr. Prue and I will be meeting with Special Education Director and Bookkeeper to review this. However, I'll be recommending a budget freeze at this time.
I will make a motion that we freeze the budget for the remainder of the 2023-2024 school year.
Second?
Okay, I just needed a minute to process. All right, so there's a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor of supporting the budget freeze from this date forward, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All right, that's 4-0 for budget freeze. Okay.
I just had a question about the budget freeze. So does that mean then we reached a certain level of the budget, or is it just freezing so that we don't exceed?
We want to freeze so that we don't exceed our line items.
In
And
other categories.
Got it.
we didn't have time to meet before the meeting tonight to determine what revenues might be applicable to these items. So
We're
to
freezing
err on
it,
the side
yeah.
of caution, we're freezing. Essential materials will still be able to be purchased, but non-essential,
Mhm.
Must go
Items
through the
will-
superintendent.
we'll have to go through.
And it's,
Us.
at our next meeting, well, we're in a different fiscal year, but things can change pretty quickly. All right, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
And that concludes the financial report.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hickey. Mr. Lynch?
Thank you for curriculum instruction and assessment. Dr. Whipple mentioned this earlier, but I just wanted to thank the staff at KIS and KES for the follow-up training with EduClimber. EduClimber is the software platform where all students' attendance data, assessment information, is essentially in like an online CUME folder for those of us who are been around the blocks at school. And like Dr. Whipple said, teachers were excited to be able to see all those resources in one place. It was a very good idea to do the training in April when the teachers know the students in front of them and had a little bit more data. So we really appreciate the MTSS team representatives from KIS, that's Ralph Versasi and Chris Cagney, and the representatives from KES, Terry Whipple and Tim Coughlin. So I think we're well positioned for next year to continue to use the data to make sure all of our students are supported. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch?
Just one, is there going to be professional development planned? Do you know what that's going to be yet for the September, since it's been moved now to the beginning of the school year again?
Do you mean the primary?
Yes, that date.
Yes. Yeah, we continue to work on we finalized that at the summer retreat based on needs, but we recognize that we have the Monday, Tuesday, I believe it's the 27th and 28th for professional development. Students attend for 3 days. Then we have the Tuesday after Labor Day for professional development. So we're thinking about how to provide training for that, for the new IEP software. And certainly those will be two big priorities, but we're starting to line up our required trainings too, which typically happen on the day before students arrive. So we're assembling those plans.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Gene, you got me all uncomfortable talking about September already.
Well, this is probably our last meeting with Mr. Lynch. They don't typically, we have a nice small meeting in July.
Backpacks go on sale next week.
Mr. Lynch, leave.
No, they're already on sale right now. This is when you buy them. You buy them in the middle of the school year.
Slow it down, people. All right. All right, thank you. Dr. Pruitt, you're going to give us a much more fun topic to discuss. All right.
Absolutely. I'm going to say thank you to the Kingston community for their support of the Kingston and Silver Lake budget, and the school committee members who attended and supported the needs of our students throughout this entire budget process. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lengthy process, so we want to thank you guys too, because we know how much work you put in it. All right, thank you.
Tim, may I just add, though, town meeting ended on a really positive note the other day. The last article had to do with adding something on a property, and it ended up like on a very positive note, I think. So I don't think anybody's like, ready to beat us up over our budget. I think I was happy to see that ended up with everyone laughing. Someone made a joke. It was funny. So it was good.
And I come from a city, so when I moved here, the notion of a town meeting, I was like, what do you guys do? What is this? You all get up and talk? And they're like, it's the purest form of democracy, and objectively speaking, it is. So it's fun, it's exciting to be a part of, and it worked out. So thank you. Doc?
That's it?
That's it? I told you she'd be great. All right. Standing reports. We have administrative review. Anyone like to speak to that? No?
No meeting.
All right. Bylaw? Plymouth Area Collaborative. Tricia?
Yes, their budget for next year was approved at the last meeting, and no more meeting until September, I think.
Okay. Don't talk about September. Oh. And Union 31, Gene?
No meeting.
All right, great. Negotiations?
Also, no update aside from our executive session, which was posted
Yep.
earlier.
All
Yep.
right. Budget advisory, we can never escape that one. Thank you. Facility oversight, anything?
Just that the capital planning items were approved.
Yep. I want to publicly thank Heath Emberg for his work and his collaboration with the schools for facilities. Thank you. Policy, anything?
Could be my-
Technology, nothing at this time. Kingston Soccer already spoke.
May I just add, during new business, we spoke briefly before the meeting. I don't know if we want to add it to the July meeting. I'm sorry to ask Ms. Hickey to maybe take on one more order of business. The Kingston School Committee reviewed scholarships tonight, and we are, for, I believe it's the third or the fourth year in a row, unable to award a font scholarship because there's no interest coming from that account. So it's being requested that we ask central office to move that scholarship into a higher yielding account. And so if we can just figure
Yep.
out how to get that.
So first order of business, Ms. Hickey's
Yep.
gonna check on the legality.
Yep.
And talk the structure, but at our July meeting, we will get an update, and then we make a decision moving forward at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Approval of bill schedule. We have the warrants.
So the vendor invoices were due to the town yesterday. They went out digitally as a single signature warrant and were submitted to the town. There were 16 warrants totaling $1,024,638.47. Last month, our meeting was also out of sync with the town's warrant schedule, and we met on the 2nd with warrants due on the 8th. There were 10 warrants that also went out digitally, totaling $503,482.56.
Great, thank you. All right. Number 12 is other matters or anything unforeseen at the time of posting. Nothing for discussion there. A few dates to remember. Of course, we celebrate the Memorial Day. We're a town that has a parade. Please join us. Silver Lake graduation is scheduled for the final day of May. There's a rain date of June 1st. We have a June 6th early release for the K through 6 buildings. June 14th, Flag Day, is our last day of school. That is a wonderful day. And July 8th is our closeout meeting for the Kingston School Committee.
Could I add one date to remember? This coming Saturday is our town election, May 18th. Please vote at Kingston Elementary School from 8 to 6.
Mr. Lewis, may I ask Mr. Materna, the 6th grade final assembly, is there a date on that? And are school committee members welcome to present your citizenship?
It was in the packet, the 12th.
Okay, the 12th. Thank you. I just missed that being announced.
Final assembly is June 12th.
Thank you.
Sixth grade final assembly is June 12th.
Thank you, that was
Okay.
my mistake.
And we'll send
Thank you.
invites to appropriate parties.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Would you like the school committee to participate in helping with the
In the
citizenship
past,
boards?
school committee has.
It's
said yes.
all
I think that it would
school
be a-
committee requests go through the superintendent. So, you can invite through the superintendent, school committee members to join you if you'd like.
Very good. My
We
intention
don't
is to
choose
keep
them.
it status quo. So I'll talk to Dr. Prue about that.
All right, thank you. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? All right, we are adjourned. Great work.